38 years old, I climbed the railings of a bridge to jump in front of a train. I never thought I'd ever get to that point. There's 80,000 people in the UK who have, on a daily basis, have suicidal ideation. 6,500 of them actually go ahead and do it each year. I wake up in the morning and open my eyes and went, I wish I didn't open my eyes today. For the next couple of weeks, I was going into work depressed as fuck. I think that's crazy what I was doing, and I should have asked for help, but I didn't. And it's that suicide ideation. I didn't want to end my life. I just wanted to end the pain. You probably don't remember me. My name's David. And she went, yeah, I remember you. Where are you? What are you about to do? And I went, I'm about to jump in front of a high-speed train. She said, no, you're not. You're going to get on it, not under it. Without that card in my wallet, my son wouldn't have his dad. Shame is around suicide is one of the most powerful feelings, and that's why people don't talk about it.
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. We're sharing the stories of our guests. I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey. Okay, I'm just going to say something about one of our sponsors, Riverval. The world of cars, vans and minibuses is often a pain point for many of us. The hassle of finding the right vehicle, let alone looking after it, are all more things to add to our lists as busy people. Riverval's mission is to make motoring manageable, and that's why they provide leasing, purchasing, servicing and vehicle management. So whether you have one family car or a fleet of vans for your business, Riverval are your trusted vehicle supplier. Visit www.riverval.co.uk. Okay, let's jump back to the podcast. Okay, welcome to another episode of the podcast. Delighted to be here with my special guest, Mr. David Eakins. David, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you. Yeah, very good.
Mate, absolutely delighted to have you on. I think you very kindly reached out to me a while back, said that you'd listened to a few of the podcasts, and you kindly shared that video that you put together around your journey, which actually had me in tears, and it was very emotional, really powerful. And then obviously we met up and you kindly shared the story in a bit more detail, and it was it's such a powerful one, mate, and I'm so grateful for you taking the time out to come on. So I'm excited to get involved, get straight into it.
Oh, no, thank you. Honestly, I feel really honoured to be invited on to talk about something that's really, really important to me.
Amazing. Well, mate, let's get cracking.
Yes.
We'll start with the as we always do, with a big question, right?
Yeah.
What, success. How do you define it? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, but before my breakdown, I had a 20-year career in advertising, and I didn't really think about success too much. I was just doing life. It was all about working hard, winning awards, getting a pay rise, playing hard, and that's kind of what the structure of my life was for 20 years. And I think that's not a particularly deep way of living life, and I certainly don't think that did me too many favours in later life. And then when I was 38, I had quite a severe breakdown because of a lot of grief, trauma, loss, which did lead to a suicide attempt. And since that moment, I've had to work incredibly hard on my mental health. And for 5 years, I really struggled with this feeling of being a failure, for what I almost did to myself, my family, and those closest to me. So I've had to really try and learn not to be a failure, and what's for me now, having been on the journey I've been on, for me success is being able to do at least three things every day that bring me joy, and those three things have to be something that I can control, that within my power. And so I made a promise to myself that to get myself out of my pit of depression, I'm going to start working daily on those three things, and that's to make my wife laugh, make my boy laugh, and if I can do those two things, I can make me laugh. And just those three things, if I can get up out of bed every morning, and by the time I get to bed at night and I've done those three things, that is a success. That day is a success, and it's a day-by-day process.
Wow. What I take from that for me, and this is the key, I think, which people listening, is that success, the feeling of success, the feeling of feeling successful, can be so simple. Right? If we change the narrative around it, we reframe the barometers in which we measure it, on which we look at, and a lens in which we see success, it can be so simple, and we can have that feeling. I think for me, one of the reasons I've developed the 5 pillars and trying to do that is because, and it lands so brilliant with me what you've said, because for me, it's if we can measure it, or we can look at it based on these, sometimes just these simple things, we can have that feeling of feeling successful, because that's ultimately what potentially we're chasing, right? When we're chasing the big moment on the mountain, on the podium, the big wins, the traditional metrics of success, what we're searching for is that feeling of feeling successful. Whereas if something as simple as I'm just going to make my wife laugh and my boy laugh, and in turn make me laugh and bring joy and happiness on a daily basis, like you said, something that's really controllable, that you can control, right? You can generally control. If we all looked at it like that, wow, what an impact that could potentially have, right?
Yeah, and I think I go back and look at why wasn't that my metrics of success, and it's because, you know, going through school, it's all about it's that education, career, marriage, retire, death. That's the order of things, isn't it? And so to start off at that education, to succeed, to get the job, you need good grades. So there's a real emphasis on getting your GCSEs. You're going to go to college, go to college. You're going to university, you go to university. Then you find your trade. And at my university, I went to Bucks University, which is a really good one for advertising. But they just ramped that dial up to steroids, level 10, which is the only way you can succeed in that industry. And it's a really tough, cutthroat industry where only the best really succeed in it. You need to be the best, and they literally from day one, they go, the next 3 years is boot camp, you know, like the Royal Marines, and they say it's boot camp. If you're late more than 3 times, you lose your placement at a great agency in London. You know, what are your work experience? If you're late 3 times, you turn up at 9, you don't finish till 5. You finish at 5, you go to the library, you carry on studying. You know, we were doing like so many hours to train us to what the industry is going to be like. You know, because you know, in advertising you do like 16-hour days sometimes. You know, 60, 70-hour weeks. So that was just the main focus, which is to win awards. You know, to get the good agencies, the good salary, the good pay rises. You need awards in your portfolio. And so that was it. That was my main focus, and that became my identity. Was working in advertising, and that's where my worth came from. Is how many awards can you win to get in the best agencies? And it's almost like it puts blinkers onto you in real life. your personal life that really matters, and my professional life just completely took over. And that's what I thought success was. How many awards you get, and you just completely forgot about the simple things in life, which I had to really.
But that's the norm, though, is it? Like, I say that's the norm, but that's for me. This is why these conversations are so important, because that society, all that you described, is what society tells us, right? You look on social media, and that's what it's not telling you. Do the simple things in life, because that's going to make you really successful. It's the message is constantly going along the lines of, generally, I know I'm generalising a little bit, but generally society is telling us that this is what you should do to succeed, and if you build this and you do this, or you know, if you've got a job, you can still be an entrepreneur and make millions, because you can have a side hustle and you can work the extra, we can work 24 hours a day, you can do this, all of these type of messages that are coming through. To want to chase, because we live in a capitalist society, because they're telling us that we want more, we need more, so we need to keep building and get that promotion, get that higher paid job, because then you can get more stuff and you can do this and that, and then I can get that bigger house, and of course I can have that car, and I can go to Disneyland, and I can tick all these boxes that society are telling me that's going to make me successful. Going to call bullshit on all of that, because of these 123 episodes in. I'm learning, and my own journey, I'm learning that we don't need more stuff. We need to look inside more, and going back to, as you mentioned, about fulfilment and purpose, and these type of messages that we need to start. And I think you're right. It starts right back as early as school years, right? It starts right back there, because the metric, even success at school, like you mentioned, is what grades are you going to get and where do you get to. So, because let's go back to then. Like, I want to go right back to the beginning for you, and tell me something about school, about life growing up, about the sort of shaped who sits in front of me today.
Yeah, but before I do that, I'm fascinated by tribes who don't live in a capitalised society, and there's some really fascinating insights there. They looked at, it goes way back to even when you're like, as soon as you're born. So in developing countries, the third world countries, whatever you want to call them, in truly tribal sort of societies, they measured and timed how long a child is held in human connection, like whether it's the mother, the grandmother, the auntie, or whoever is going to be holding the baby. 86% of that child's life, they've got skin-to-skin contact and held by a family member. And then they measured a capitalist society, Western society, 16% is being held, that child. And I think when it comes down to human connection, we're so busy, putting a kid in a pram, pushing it along, while you're doing something else. We sleep in separate beds. And I think that separation from such an early age just pushes these families apart, and they don't have that intimate connection. And I think that's such an important point, that distinction between capitalist society. And I think later years, I'm fascinated by human connections and that correlation with our well-being. But for me, growing up, born in Crawley, which is sort of quite a rough sort of town. Born into a very religious Christian household. And they, my parents kind of instilled that really strong sense of right and wrong, which felt, which I don't think that did too many favours in later in life. I just had this real distinct feeling that if something wasn't right, I used to get really sort of upset, angered, or triggered by someone behaving not in a way that I thought was a way to behave. So they did instill really strong sense of moral values in me. moved to Horsham and went to an all-boys school, which was a challenge. I grew up with, I'd say, a normal childhood because you haven't really got anything to gauge it against. But there were a couple of things that didn't feel quite right. My dad was an alcoholic, and that had an impact on our family home. And my wife, well, my mum, she packed up me and my brother a couple of times just because it was a bit too much in the house. And she said, you've got to go to rehab or you're going to lose your family. So he went off there for quite a few weeks, didn't see him. But when he came back, he was just a completely changed man. It was the difference was night and day. And him going through rehab was incredible to see the effects that had on him. And he had to go through the AA 12-step program and go into meetings every single evening to try and stay off the bottle. He had a sponsor who really helped him, held his hand along the way, his journey. And yeah, my dad went from quite a scary, intimidating guy to, it sounds like a cliche, but my hero, because I saw him manage to turn his life around. And he became a sponsor himself for 30 years. He sponsored, over 100 people and helps them become dry. And from such a young boy, seeing him do that, I think that's what's gave me the, not courage, I don't know what the word is, but to do what I'm doing now, that really, setting up Talk Club to help other men. And I think I got that from my dad, seeing that humanity of asking for help and then helping others. And I think that was a really big life lesson that I didn't realise at the time. It's only until late years, It's my 46th birthday yesterday.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, so
happy birthday.
Thank you. But yeah, it's I think that's a really important thing I learned when I was growing up.
And I guess that for a couple of things there. One, talking about the thing you said just before that around the tribal stuff and families and the connection and that human connection and how important that is. And actually, when you then highlighted that part of your journey, I guess the transition in seeing your dad through that, I guess, what was it, the feeling that actually, one, the bravery that he did to ask for help and go and do that, but actually as well, how many people don't make that choice, right? The right choice that he chose you guys as a family, like your mum gave him that ultimatum, and he chose you as a man. I am going to make that change, and he did that and saw that through. Again, that feeling for you as a child of, and linking to the tribal stuff, but around that safety and that element of someone going, I'm going to choose you and I'm here to protect you and love you, I guess, is it must be an amazing feeling and something, like you said, something to look at and go, God, wow, that, and you can see how that potentially, I guess, changes or gives you the tools again to be able to go that how important that is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but before he went into rehab, he was a very scary guy.
Yeah.
And I think when I was growing up, I was an introvert, incredibly shy, very scared of life. But seeing him go through rehab and actually turning his life around really helped the bond between me and my dad, and I think that's a really important dynamic. And him being more pleasant to be around. So, it was a really powerful thing.
Yeah. And I guess you said about being an introvert, when you was at school, and what was your school life like? Did you enjoy school? What was it?
No, I was painfully shy. I didn't have too many friends. I grew up in the council estate and didn't have too much money, and I had these horrible NHS glasses. I had face full of acne, and all boys school, gang of kids. I was the loner, so yeah, I had a bit of a rough time for 5 years there. And my dad, he was so angry at the way I was being treated by these kids. I could just see that sort of like rage sort of coming back, which is quite scary. But he pushed me into doing boxing, so I kind of learned how to handle myself. And I was so glad he did, because that was my start of doing mixed martial arts for 16 years.
Wow.
And that really gave me the confidence to know how to handle myself. And I think that's a really important thing in life, to have that confidence to stand up for yourself. Yeah, when I was 14, I'd going through puberty. I grew up a bit too quick, too fast, and ended up getting really quite intense chest pains, and they were pretty severe. So I went to the doctors, and they said you might potentially have Marfan syndrome, which means that you're a few ribs out of place. My wingspan is too long for my height. There's a few telltale signs of what some symptoms of what Marfan syndrome is, but one of them is there's an artery in your heart which can grow too quickly, and it's twice as long, which means the walls are half as thick, which means that unfortunately the people who do have Marfan syndrome don't live past their 21st birthday.
Oh, wow.
And so when I was 14, getting told that there's a high probability of me having that was a game changer for me, because then I had to make a decision going, right, well, if I've only got potentially 6-7 years max left, I've got to maximise every day in this life to enjoy it to its fullest. And I think having that scare made me come out of my shell, to drop the introvert and being shy, just to really push myself out to be a bit more sociable. So that was another really powerful moment in my life, my developing stages of my life.
Wow. And then obviously, as you went on, was it that you didn't have that issue, or you did and it was gone away, or you managed, or?
Yeah, they had to go for echocardiograph every sort of 12 months just to measure the length of it, and they kept on going, I think you're fine. I think you're fine. Just wait until you're 21. So I always had that hanging over my head.
Okay. I'm really keen with I know we sort of mentioned offline, so I'm keen while we're just about talking about the school subject. As you said, you listen to a lot of episodes, and I talk obviously about the education system a lot. And I'm keen. I always say around a lot of the stuff we talk about, and certainly what you sort of mentioned there about growing up, but around success and what that looks like, and especially when we go to schools, and like we mentioned earlier on in the conversation around how it's sort of measured. I'm really keen. The education system now, why are constantly asking why we don't measure emotional intelligence, because the stuff me and you talk about now on the pathway journey on is so much around emotional intelligence, right? And dealing with emotions and sharing emotions and understanding and processing them all. Why we don't necessarily do that in schools, why, and like I said, I've mentioned a couple of times that it was mentioned to me by a head teacher that actually you can measure academic intelligence and you can't do that with emotional intelligence, which I don't necessarily believe. I think there is a way of doing that, but I'm keen. What's your take on that?
Yes, so this is a big deal for me, sort of, nurturing my son to go through a childhood to be more, have a higher emotional intelligence than and more of a focus on his emotions, because I didn't really have that when I was growing up. I was battling all these emotions, didn't know how to deal with them. His school is fantastic, bilingual, and they they sent around an email a few months ago saying, do any parents want to go on an emotional coaching course at school?
Amazing.
So I was the first one to raise my hand, and it's like, yeah, sign me up. And so six parents going in for 6 weeks, once a day for 6 weeks, and had this an amazing tutor. And I said to her, what is this? Fundamentally, what is this about? And she said that we do teach emotional intelligence in schools. We teach teachers about emotional intelligence so they can teach the kids. So all of the teachers in that school are fully trained up for emotional coaching, and they do implement that within each lesson. However, that's only half the picture, because half the times at school, half the times at home, and unless the parents know about how to emotional coaching, they want to give a real holistic stability for kids inside and outside school. Interestingly, within each lesson or session, it seemed to be the instructor helping the parents about their own emotions. And I said, so we're not here to teach the kids. They said, well, I need to teach you how to self-regulate or identify your own emotions so that you're in a good place, then you can teach the kids.
Wow. That's so, mate. Because this is so much of what I'm certainly learning from my own journey and analysing some of the stuff. And you're exactly right. I think, and I constantly go, where do we start with this? How do we change this? Where do we start, right? And is it that, because you're right, let's teach emotional intelligence in schools, but what happens when they go home and the parents, because we've not been given those skills, right? So we don't know what we're doing. So we're then communicating to them in a different way. So it's got to be, and then the same when you go workplace cultures and stuff like that. If we're not creating environments where people can openly share and process their emotions, then we're going to build a generation that are really emotionally intelligent, but then go into a workplace that's still in this capitalist society that doesn't understand and process emotions. So that it's a cycle. So it's almost what comes first, the chicken and egg. I mean, where is it that? What's your opinion? Is it that we go right? The first point is teachers and adults. Like when you have a child, the first thing before they start school is you go on an emotional intelligence training course, and then the teacher's already primed for that. So that as soon as the kids then go into school, we're able to do it. Is that where we start? Is that the starting point?
Yeah, but they do teach it on a daily basis. My son had a couple of bullying. He's only age of 7 now, but last year he had a couple of incidences with a couple of kids, and obviously I was really concerned about that from my experience of all boys school, and so I pounced on that. And she said, look, it's just a couple of kids who are on the spectrum. They go into the red zone, and all the kids in their class know to give them space. But my boy wasn't privy to that or didn't know, and he just ended up going into that kid's space while he's in the red zone, and he lashed out. So they then end up having to have a word with his class about certain people find certain emotions quite difficult to process, and we need to give them space if they're in that red zone. And they really work quite hard each day about kindness, the what words you use, how that affects people, showing generosity, how to make friends by being kind. If you're feeling quite angry or upset, there's a regulation station, a quiet corner in each of the rooms, and if that's not enough, then there's a separate room completely on its own. And they have books of photos of all family members, a list of all the things they love that bring them comfort, and And if they're feeling sad, they can take that book away and just immerse themselves in these family and friends and love and laughter sort of moments. And so they do teach it, but they don't. I said to one of the teachers, why don't you teach emotional intelligence in school? She goes, we do. We have been doing it for 20 years, but we assess it, but we can't mark it. You know, we can't grade it.
Because Ofsted doesn't recognise it as a thing. So is it that it's not? We can teach it, but they don't. It's not part of the curriculum as such, in the sense of what like you said, what's measured. So they're not getting.
They can't grade it.
Can't grade it. Yeah.
And I said, well, surely it'd be great if you could grade it. And they said, we would love to make it solidify it within to our curriculum. But the only problem is that we can't, because there's so many kids who are being brought up in a really dysfunctional family environment that they are on a really back foot. So it'll be even harder for them in school if they start teaching a subject where kids from a really well balanced family environment who are already elevated to a higher position within their emotional intelligence, it's then unfair to be able to grade it when they know there's going to be a load of other kids who are going to be struggling and might not be able to reach the same sort of level.
It's such a. I do get the challenges, I guess. Well, I had a chat, a really good conversation with a child psychologist the other day, and she was saying a similar thing, actually, that my understanding, well, because I know that even in my kids' school, it's not measured again, but it is definitely taught. Emotional intelligence is taught, growth mindset, and all of these things are taught in. What this child psychologist said was they introduced a program into schools, when they go into senior school, which is obviously then in secondary school is slightly different, where they go, okay, they started doing some practicing around sharing emotions and using conversation cards and that type of thing to try and get conversation. And she said year 7 were great, worked really well, because they'd come from an environment in primary school where emotional intelligence is looked at and maybe not measured, but it's definitely taught. So they come into that and it's really embraced. Year 8, not bad, still similar to year 7, but not quite as good. They started to withdraw a bit. As soon as you get to year 9, 10 and 11, they would just sit there and just wouldn't talk, wouldn't have that level, like, because you go into that adolescence and that teen years, and again then there's less emotional intelligence taught in schools at that age group, because then Ofsted's up here and you go, right, we've got to get ready for GCSEs and grades, etc., and this is the measure, so this emotional stuff, that we can't deal with that, that's over here. So then you go, and then society gets older and they're in their peer groups. You talk about tribes and stuff. We want to belong, so we're in these peer groups, and I just want to fit in. Then, so I'm not, especially as a young boy and a man, I'm not going to sit there and share my emotions and say, do you know what I mean? So that's where is that the stumbling block? Is that where it starts to break down?
That puberty and not wanting to stand out and maybe bottle things up. Not show your vulnerability. Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting point. I guess at that really young age, when you're just learning the basics, that's you got space for that, talking about emotions. But yeah, you're right, when you get to that sort of 14, 15, it just geared up for GCSEs.
But we're gearing them up for GCSEs when we're still looking at going, right, where because we're still the archaic curriculum still teaching them because the next step is going to university and to get a good job, and you're going to need all of these grades to do this, whereas actually we go, probably not going to need that. Like, you think of the amount of jobs that our kids, the jobs that our kids might do, have probably not even been created yet, right? So we're going, what does, with AI and the advancement in technology, there's less focus? Can there be less focus on this? So there is more focus on the emotional intelligence and training and the human connection and the power of that, and how important that could be to create that generation of really emotionally aware and emotionally intelligent.
I think the one thing I've realised recently is there is really good moments within the year, really powerful days which can really highlight that. So Mental Health Awareness Day or week or month, Suicide Prevention Day or Suicide Awareness Day. They're moments I've noticed in they're more recent sort of moments that have been created, and so workplaces, they do celebrate these days and put a bit of budget behind it to get guest speakers to come in to raise awareness and safeguard employees by using stories to their lived experience to prevent other people going down that path. And I recently went back to my university to say, look, can I just come and do a mental health talk about my journey from this place into the big wide world and the impacts that had on me to prevent any of the students going down that same path. They went, fantastic, yeah, we're all over this. And they had teams from Mind, the mental health charity, in. And so that day was fully about well-being and mental health. So I think we can use, if there's no space throughout the year, is it part of the curriculum, we can certainly use particular days to really champion and highlight these important issues.
Again, it is just, for me, it's that, it's highlighting that, but it's giving, for me, it's trying to give that next generation the tools, right, the tools and the skills to be able to deal with their emotions. That's got to be the overall essence of it. It's got to be giving them skills to really understand, to sit with an emotion and understand what that feels like, and process it and not suppress it, because that's what we end up doing potentially, isn't it? We suppress our emotions, we don't know how to deal with them, so we just push them down. And I guess, and I am generalising, but probably more so amongst young boys and men, that we're just that's what we do. I had this amazing process the other day. I've done some conscious connected breath work with Sam Adams, who was one of my guests recently. I don't know if you've ever done it, but it was just an incredible experience. And what it enabled me to do was it shifted. You do it where you do circular breathing, so it's really like that, and you just really circular breathing, and it changes your mind state. So, and honestly, I sobbed for an hour, like uncontrollably.
The emotional release. I practice breathwork every day.
Really?
Yeah, and it's one of the most powerful things. I'm such a huge advocate of it. You know, that's I've got my core things I've got to do to stay on top of my mental health each day. Cold water immersion, exercise, surrounding myself in nature, breath work, practice mindfulness. They're my core things I need to do.
Do you do that every day?
Pretty much every day, as much as I can, time permitting. I think if you said to me 10 years ago, pre-breakdown, do breath work, do yoga, practice mindfulness, immerse yourself in nature, I would have gone, yeah. It's not for me. I don't see the value in it. You know, why do I need that? I'm solid. I'm enjoying life. You know, I've got a good career, good salary. I've got a good, friendship group. Got a good family. I don't need any of that. When I had my breakdown, and I actually think my breakdown was one of the best things that happened to me, was having my breakdown, and going through all that trauma, because it made me and forced me to learn about my mind, about my emotions, about self-regulation. They all became the most important thing in my life. And I think it's really hard to go into schools to bang that drum, because I think they'll look at the older generation to go, I don't see the value or worth in that. Where I think storytelling, going in, and that's why I wanted to go back to university, is to go, I've got lived experience. I thought I was mentally bulletproof. I was solid. I didn't need to give my mental health a second thought. 38 years old, I climbed the railings of a bridge to jump in front of a train. I never thought I'd ever get to that point. Never. That's what other people do. It's not me. And that's why my story is so powerful, because I can say, I went through that journey, and luckily I didn't take that final step. I'm out the other side. And these are the things that keep me happy, healthy, self-regulated. And I think it's that storytelling that we can use to go into, maybe that's a bit full on for younger kids, but certainly secondary school, if you're willing to have those brave, uncomfortable conversations. There's Jess Rad in Brighton, and she says, I love her line, I want to be outspoken about the unspoken.
Yeah, I love that. I love
those scary conversations that as soon as you say suicide, it's like, oh, taboo. I'm so comfortable with it now. I want to talk about it to prevent other people. There's 80,000 people in the UK who have, on a daily basis, have suicide ideation. 80,000. 6,500 of them actually go ahead and do it each year. That's an awful lot. So I think these conversations, and I bet a load of them just never thought I'd ever get to that stage.
You know what? There was a statistic that was shared with me. Daniel Gainsford shared it, and I'm sure if I'm quoting this right, but it's something like out of those suicides, and the number that you mentioned, 2/3 of those had never had any recorded or any previous mental health issues.
Yeah.
2/3. So that's people like you and me who are going along life, going, yeah, bulletproof, I'm fine, and then boom, and then something hits us where you go, I can't cope with this, and again back to not knowing how to process our emotions, deal with them, articulate them, have those conversations. We go into a dark place, and if you can, mate, are you all right to share that your story? You mentioned obviously your breakdown and suicide attempt and where you was, just for the listeners, just take us on that journey, what led you to that, and how you got into that space, and obviously come out the other side.
Absolutely. I'll give you the headline news, and you can, if you want to drill down in any of those points, absolutely more than welcome to, more than happy to do that. 38 years old, cycling across London, got a call from my brother at 8:30 in the morning. I thought, he never phones me at that sort of time. I know this isn't a good call. Picked it up, and he's like, I'm with mum and dad on the Isle of Wight. He's collapsed. Ambulance is on the way. He was really panicking. He's like, ambulance on the way. It doesn't look good. Get here now. I was like, legged it to the Isle of Wight, and he was plugged into a life support machine. Spoke to the doctor, and he said, look, he's had a brain hemorrhage, catastrophic. Right hand side of his brain hemisphere is brain filled with blood. There's no going back for that. We'll keep him on life support, and so his two brothers can come over, say their goodbyes. They did that. They turned it off, held his hand as he died, passed away. For me, I was never experienced any raw pain like that before. It was so sudden, and my dad was my hero, going from scary guy to managing to turn his life around, and I knew I grew up with a family secret, and at his funeral, no, actually it wasn't at the funeral, it was that when we got home to my mum's house, she said, oh, your dad used to be a heroin addict. And I was like, that blew my mind. I was like, I had so many questions wanted to ask him, I couldn't. and I was just dealing with all this raw pain, and that was a real head fuck as well. But I knew I would get over it, because we all lose our parents at some time. It felt like it was a really brutal way of losing my dad, but time heals all wounds, and I just got to give it time. My wife was heavily pregnant at the time. While I was heavily grieving for my dad, at least I had that to distract me and that positive to look forward to. Went to Hove Hospital, planned cesarean. They gave her an epidural, spinal block. She held my hand and said, "It's gone wrong," flatlined. And big red button was pressed. I was ushered out the room. They worked on her, and ultimately, 54 minutes. She didn't have a pulse, but they managed to get a glimmer of one. And it's a long story, but I'll cut to the chase. After 8 days on life support, she somehow, and it's a miracle, the doctors can't explain it, she managed to find a way back to us. Minimum brain damage, and I was on a high. I was like, man.
So your son had been born. He was
healthy. Yeah, he was healthy. I've been planning with, her best mates and my mates, how we're going to live life, either without her or her being in a vegetative state. So I was on a real. But before they could discharge my wife, the top psychiatrist in NHS, God bless the NHS, said, "Look, what you've gone through is amazingly traumatic. What else has gone in your life?" I said, "Well, I'm grieving heavily for my dad." She went, "Right, okay, becoming a dad for the first time is a head fuck at the best of times. You're dealing with this trauma, plus you're grieving for your dad. Here's your card. Here's my card. Something completely unrelated might happen within 6 months that might make you have a wobble. Before you do something silly, call my number." And I remember looking at it going, "You're mental. You're a psychiatrist and you're mental." Got my wife and kid, put the card in my wallet, didn't think anything of it, got out of there. When I eventually went back to work after compassionate leave, my manager just had no safeguarding procedures in place. He made a real hash of it, and that's why I'm Happy Sapien. My company is workplace wellbeing. That's what I'm really passionate about, to prevent other people, going down that path I did. He didn't know how to handle me, so he fired me in a really brutal way, and that's another long story. And that was the straw that broke my mental health. I was experiencing so much loss and grief, and I was trying to deal with all these emotions, and I just didn't know how to. Unknown at the time, I was suffering from PTSD. Ultimately led to depression, and they were managing me out for a number of weeks. And I remember getting halfway through, waking up, I wake up in the morning and I opened my eyes and went, I wish I didn't open my eyes today. I can't. I don't think I can do it. I can't go through this, dealing with this pain. I mean, raw pain. I don't know how to communicate it. I don't know what to do with it. It's sitting there. Life would be so much easier if I wasn't here. And I remember hearing myself, in my head, those thoughts going through my head. And I went, man, I'm in trouble. Like, I've never had any thoughts like that whatsoever. And for the next couple of weeks, I was going into work depressed as fuck. And every time a bus went past, my foot would twitch. And that scared the hell out of me. It's like, what was my body doing? I feel like it's telling me that I just need to end the pain. And that became the highlight of my day, just to work out which bus or lorry would do it. Because if it was going too slow, it would maim me, and I'd be more of a burden to my family. So if I was going to do it, got to choose the right one. But of course I'm not going to do it. Who would actually end their life? But just that thought of which one would finish it was just a real comforting thought, like to know that it's so difficult to explain that thought process, because when you're suffering from PTSD, your thought process is it's not working right. I can now I think that's crazy what I was doing, and I should have asked for help, but I didn't, and it's that suicide ideation.
Because is it like you mentioned a couple of times? I guess is it and for people listening, I guess people have been in maybe similar situation, but it's the thought of I'm in so much pain. Ending it will be an end to that pain, and that's the
what I've learnt now is that I didn't want to end my life. I just wanted to end the pain. The after my moment on the bridge, I was put in front of that. Well, I'll tell the full story. I kept on having blackouts where I kept on finding myself in different parts of London, not knowing how I got there. And I remember leaving work one day, and I think it was my final week at work. And I remember walking out the door. Next thing I know, I'm on a bridge in rush hour in London. I just opened my eyes, and I was watching all the trains slowly going underneath me. So I'm having a bit of a I saw a high speed one, and that voice saying I'm weak and worthless went, that's the one. That's the one. And I went, yeah. So I was calm. It's like I wasn't panicking at all. I just climbed over. People trying to stop me, grabbing hold of me and my legs. And as it was getting closer, I was like, this is such a peaceful way just to end all the chaos that's going on in my head. And just before I was going to jump, I heard that psychiatrist go, before you do something silly, call this number. And I was like, fuck, I might still have that in my wallet. Climbed back over, and there was a bit of a scene. I remember this look on this one guy's face, which I've never seen before, which is just sheer horror, but complete compassion at the same time. Two conflicting emotions on his face, and he really wanted to help, and I just told everyone to fuck off, give me space. Ended up just storming off, got my wallet out, had her number, and I thought there's no way she's going to pick up. She's top psychiatrist at NHS, like phone number, and she picked up. I went, you probably don't remember me. My name's David. And she went, yeah, I remember you. Where are you? What are you about to do? And I went, I'm about to jump in front of a high-speed train. She went, no, you're not. You're going to get on it, not under it. Get on it.
Take your time, mate.
Get on it. I meet in Brighton. And that woman, saved my life. without that card in my wallet, my son wouldn't have his dad. My wife wouldn't have her husband. And I would have caused so much pain to all those who love me dearly. And I felt so ashamed about that. Shame is around suicide is one of the most powerful feelings, and that's why people don't talk about it. The fear of being perceived as weak is just so overwhelming. It was just another emotion I didn't know how to deal with, but luckily she guided me through it. I learned a lot of her. It was yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know it can't be easy when you relive those moments, but honestly, I think your bravery, your honesty, and your vulnerability will, for anyone listening that ever even feels an iota of that you felt, that maybe listening to that conversation and you sharing your story can save lives, and that's what and I truly believe that. I think it's I think you're a hero. I think you're right. I think there's so much the stigmas around suicide, around the shame, like you mentioned, the shame that we feel by having those thoughts and having those feelings, and but being able to communicate, being able to share, being able to normalise these conversations I truly believe will have an impact and help.
Yeah. I mean, I spent 5 years suppressing all those feelings to anyone apart from that therapist. I only had 3 sessions with her before funding was cut. So I was left. She did well, but for 5 years I just didn't talk about it to anyone and suppressed those feelings. And when you suppress those feelings, you depress them, and you suffer from depression. And I was on medication.
Was this the so the 5 years after
that moment of crisis? Yeah.
That period then, and what changed for you then in that period?
So I was drinking a lot and doing a lot of cocaine just to mask. Everyone knows me as a very positive, happy guy, and I just wanted to carry on presenting myself in that way. So I put a mask on, but behind the scenes I was just still hating life, hating me, hating my emotions, hating feeling weak and worthless. And after 5 years of living like that, I was just so fed up. I was ruining the first 5 years of my son's life by not being fully present, by going out until all hours in the morning and just being useless the next day. Had an impact on my relationship with my wife, created distance between us. And I went, I just can't do this anymore. And yet, I was listening to a lot of influential podcasts, and that gave me the courage just to go. There's some really powerful ones I'd love to talk about at some point, but I was like, I just got to be honest. I got to talk about what happened. And so I contacted the agency that fired me. My creative director wasn't there anymore, and and I said, can I just come in and just do a mental health talk? I've never done anything like that before, but I just want to come in and just, and I needed to, for me, just to get it off my chest and almost go back to ground zero and tell people what happened, because no one knew. And I did that talk. It was a 20-minute talk. I shit myself. And from word one to the final word, I cried my eyes out. It just, floodgates were open. And I told you. And the look on everyone's faces of, what have we just heard? And the CEO got the head of HR put in front of me and said, this guy's going to write our wellbeing strategy. This guy is, what he knows is valuable. It can help my staff. And I went, okay, never done anything like that before. And when I got home, a lot of the agency, a high percentage of the agency contacted me going, I've never heard anything quite as powerful as that. This is what I'm going through. And I just sat there, just dumbfounded, going, why are they telling me what they're going through? Like, I went there purely selfish reasons to talk about me, my experience, to help me. And what I realised very quickly, that me telling my story gives everyone else a license to talk about their story. And I didn't know what to do with it. I sent them lovely messages, but then I started worrying that, shit, they might actually need help. And I don't know how to help them. So I went back to college to study counselling, to learn how to listen intently, to see the person, to hear the person, to understand the person, how they see the world through their lens. And that just set me on a new path of just well-being, honesty, truth, humanity, connection, wanting more from life. So I'm just really shaking.
Yeah, no, mate.
And that's what I want to do. That's what fulfills my life now. That gives my life meaning and purpose. Is just to helping people. I used to fucking advertise Rolls-Royce engines to billionaires for their private jets, and I thought that was a good job. Like, what the fuck was I thinking? You know, I look back now and just think, yeah, I was earning good money. I thought it was a cool job. There's no money you could pay me to go back to do what I was doing there. You know, I'm just now on this wellbeing journey, meeting amazing people like yourself. Part of the Happy Startup crew. That's my tribe, my community. Shout out to Carlos and Lawrence.
Legends that they are.
Yeah. Meeting people like Joel. Yeah, what an amazingly kind, generous man he is. Yourself, hundreds of others. And I just want to share everything I've learned, just to help other people. Set up Talk Club Brighton Hove, which is part of the National Men's Mental Health Charity. Got invited to do that, and I've been doing that for 20 weeks now. And some of the stories there.
What goes on? Tell me about that Talk Club.
So Talk Club, it was a guy I went to university with. His best mate died by suicide, and he didn't have a clue how much he was suffering. This guy was working at all the top agencies, winning all the awards. I would have cut my right arm off to work at some of these agencies. He quit. He set up this mental health charity called Talk Club, and and I was like, wow, that's a bold move. He's like, advertising doesn't do anything for me anymore. Like, and the whole premise is, how are you out of 10 and why? So when I met you downstairs, you went, how you doing? I went, yeah, not bad. How you doing? Didn't tell you how I was doing. I said, yeah, not bad. It's just that. But if you ask someone how they are out of 10, it's just there's the litmus test of how are you actually. And I look back and actually when I was struggling, hating life, if anyone had said to me, how are you doing out of 10 and why? I would have said, I'm a 0. I'm rock bottom. And because I just don't know how to handle my emotions, what's going on with me, what's going on with my head. And I think that would have gave them an opportunity to be a friend, to be a family member. But I denied them from that because I didn't have the language or confidence.
I just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Nostos, an authentic experience of Greece right here in the heart of Hove. In a world brimming with dining options, finding that one place that captivates your palate and heart isn't always easy. It's about more than food. It's the stories, the ambience, the slice of another world. This is the essence of Nostos, an award-winning Greek restaurant. With traditional recipes passed down through generations, each dish promises a story and a piece of heritage. And Nostos is more than just a restaurant, it's a community contributor. Each dining experience supports initiatives close to their heart, from local charities to cultural events, enriching Brighton and Hove's social fabric. They also provide catering services, bringing Greek cuisine to your personal events. For a taste of Greece without leaving town, visit nostos-hove.co.uk. And when you do go, say Sam recommended the feta nests. Oh my God, they are amazing.
What is some of the ways that we fix this problem and a couple of things that I'm trying to pick up on what you're saying. It's on almost on two parts, isn't it? It's the person asking the question, being able to say, and then you having the language to be able to communicate if you're feeling a 0 or a 1 or a 2 or wherever you are, you having the language to be able to communicate that, but also giving the person who's on this side the skills to be able to listen to what again I'm trying to I guess I'm trying to put a narrative together or a picture of how we where do we fix it? Is it back here in the schools? Is it back with the next generation and giving them skills and tools to be able to process that at a later stage? Like you just mentioned, I didn't know how to communicate, process my emotions or communicate them. If you was given the skills to do that, and then me as a friend is sitting there and asking you that question, and also got the skills to be able to listen, I don't think I need the skills to fix whatever the problem. I haven't got to fix it. Well, I think this is part of the problem. We feel like we've got to fix something. Someone tells us something that they're struggling. I don't know how to fix it, so I don't want to ask the question. But actually being able to ask the question to get to even if it's just a signpost or just to sit there and listen to that person, but really listen. Is it again those skills that we could give back there? Where do we start to fix it?
Do you know? Can I take you back to the emotional coaching thing from school? Right. Yeah. One of the lessons or sessions they did, they gave us each day they'd give us a sheet to do homework to work with our child. One of the most powerful ones was a sheet of A4 paper, and it had different cartoon faces on. One happy, one sad, one angry, one upset, one shocked, one surprised, one frustrated. And so every time my son for a week was like, they could tell that someone wasn't quite right, I'd give him the sheet and say, point to what you are. And it was amazing some of the things he would point to. And one of them was scared. I was like, what are you scared about? He's like, scared about what you're going to say. I was like, oh, right. You don't need to be scared, my son. I understand you're upset. I understand you're angry. I understand you're frustrated. You don't need to be scared. And so he loved that. So for weeks and weeks and weeks, he'd always go, oh, can you get the sheet out? I just need to tell you how I'm feeling. Wow. The amazing thing happened, right? He turned around and went, how are you feeling? And I went...
How old is he?
7. And I went, oh my God, you don't know how I'm feeling. All right, give me the sheet. And I pointed to all the emotions I was feeling. Frustrated. I upset, sad, because he's acted a certain way. And he went, I didn't know you would get frustrated with me. I didn't know you were getting sad with me. Knowing you got sad with me makes me not want to do it again. And I went, after everything I've been through, I'm still not communicating how I'm feeling to my 7-year-old son. And he's asking me. And that one sheet of paper, we have it pride of place in our table. He'll ask my wife, his mum, how you feeling?
That. See, for me, listening to that, I'm looking and going, maybe that is the start. Like, but I look at, I've shared a few times about my parents, amazing parents, amazing human beings, love me unconditionally. But that environment to share emotions, did I know how they were feeling? Did I ask how they were feeling? Did I
tell them how I was feeling?
How I was feeling. But was that space created? No, but only because they've not been given the skills and the toolkit to be able to do that, right? So again, I'm trying to go where I need to break that now, and I need to do that. And we are better with the kids, still not to that level. And I think that something like that would be a game changer, where you just trying to have that level of communication and the bravery, I guess, as well. Because as parents, we feel, I guess, I don't want to share how I feel necessarily, because we're the adult. We've got to be, again, stigmas and archaic narratives around what it means to be a father, what it means to be a parent. I've got to present this image where actually just raw, honest, open authenticity and sharing those emotions. This is how it's made me feel. You acting like that, this is how it's made me feel. Let's sit and process that.
Yeah.
What a really powerful,
absolutely,
a powerful turn that could make, right?
Yeah, and it's a sheet of paper
Yeah,
that someone gave me. It's like that card that therapist gave me. Just giving someone a tool. Like the how are you out of 10? This is a verbal tool. This is a paper tool. But we need people to arm us and give us these tools. So I've been on a wellbeing journey for like 7 years. And I needed to go to school for an emotional coach to tell me how to emotionally coach myself and my son, even though I'm not practicing it. Interestingly, there were 6 people there, 5 of them women, and me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
this is the other thing, isn't it? That again, stigmas. Then do we like? I'd be interested to with Talk Club. Like, what's the when people attend those meetups, or how they're structured? Are people more open? Is it that we need to create more spaces for men to be able to be open, honest, and vulnerable?
yeah. I have to talk in generic terms because but the stories in there are confidential. But after 20 weeks, I think I must have had about 20 guys in there. The main thing I've identified within all of these sessions is that every single person has got a very unique story, but the unifying thing between all of them is a sense of isolation and loneliness in their thoughts and feelings. A lot, I'd say 60-70% of the guys in there, they're really struggling because their marriages are breakdown, and some of them, sort of our age, a little bit older, and their pub mates don't necessarily know how to be there for them when they're in a vulnerable state. A lot of them feel very anxious about just even walking through the door. I have to place myself at the bar at the beginning to welcome people in, and part of my training has been looking for the guys who are still outside looking in through the window. They opening up is a really scary thing to do. It's a lot easier to do it with strangers than your nearest and dearest, because that fear of being judged again. Tell a stranger, you can walk out that room and never have to see him again. Tell your nearest and dearest, and there's that fear of them always judging you and looking at you going, he's broken, he's weak, whatever. So doing it with strangers is easier, but a lot of them aren't used to opening up and talking about their emotions, especially some really powerful emotions. So my job is just to welcome it, entice them in, make them feel really comfortable. And I always start each meeting about how I am out of 10 and why we're all here, what Talk Club is, how important it's been in my life. And the structure is 3 questions. How are you out of 10? We all go around and share. What are the things that bring you joy in life? Is another one, to focus on the good parts of our lives. And the last question is, how are you going to work on your mental fitness this week? I love that expression, mental fitness.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we check out, how are we out of 10 now and why? And there's typically across the nation, the mean average is, I think it's 1.7, 1.9 uplift after each meeting from all the guys.
Wow.
And a lot of them just go, it's amazing to get it off my chest. It's amazing how they can identify themselves in other people. When they're sharing, they go, I know that feeling. I've been going through the same thing. And when we start talking about how we're going to work on our mental fitness, and yesterday, last night's session, I said I just got to do one day at a time. Like I said at the beginning, I've got to do one day at a time. I've got to remember to make my wife and son laugh. And a couple of the guys went, I'm nicking that.
Yeah, mate, 100%.
Yeah.
From your journey, what you've just shared with me, and like you said, if someone was to have asked you back then how you were out of 10, you would have been 0. Where are you today? If I ask you now, how are you out of
10 out of 10.
Are you really?
Yeah. 10 out of 10. Of money, I worry about money.
Yeah.
It's but where I am in my life, and the work I'm doing, the confidence I'm building. I do struggle with confidence a lot. But as soon as you've done it, open up once, it does get easier. I've been nervous about coming on here. I still worry about a feeling of failure, because I'm building a business, a well-being company.
What is the fear of what scares you about failure?
Again, it's just.
Or what does failure look like? Like if you say I'm the fear of failure, what does failure look like?
Well, so when I turn up at the school gates, there's all the mums and me, and when I had my breakdown and I was really struggling to find work and I couldn't find work, my confidence was shot, and I was not on top form. You need to be on top form in advertising, and I simply wasn't, and I struggled to get work. And that feeling of worthless, like a failure, and my wife just kept coming home, and I was just drinking. She's like, "What's up?" I was like, I feel like a failure. What are you failing at? I was like, "Well, look at me. I'm not working, not earning any money. My feel like my career's at the end, and I'm just a stay-at-home dad." And she looked at me and went, "Just a stay-at-home dad? You've got the most important job you've ever had, and that's to bring up our son." When she said that, I was like, "That's a reality check, isn't it?" My focus was on my career, my salary, my ability to earn money, not like how am I going to help emotionally her and my boy. And that was a little flick switch, going, yeah, actually the most important job is to make him happy. Making him happy makes my wife happy. Making my wife happy makes me happy. So that's the thing I focus on. But I still have a 20-year conditioning about win awards, get this pay rise, and it's so hard to undo that 20 years worth of conditioning.
We have them archaic narratives and those archaic stories that play on our mind, right? That keep going into us.
But it takes daily work and breath work. Oh my God, I do Wim Hof, and it does 5 times the amount of oxygen goes to your brain when you're loading up, and I've cried my eyes out while I've been doing it, and I've had clarity of thought, singular thoughts. I have a notepad next to me because the amount of times I go, oh, that's a really, I feel like I can get to answers of life when I'm doing breath work.
I really, like I said, Sam come on the podcast, and I was sceptical. She's brilliant, and I've followed her stuff for a while, and I think she's fascinating and an amazing woman. But she come on and she shared some of the details around breath work, and I was still sceptical because I'm not. Yeah, I do get that there's different types of breathing, but I've been doing it for 46 years. I think I've got this. Mate, as my eyes open, the most transformative experience of my life. Like, you mentioned about writing some things down. Like, I've never journaled in my life. People tell me to, and even through all the stuff I've been through, especially about mental, I think this would be a good thing to journal, and I've never been able to do it because I sit in front of it and I just think, I don't know, can't write anything. After I sobbed for an hour, like with snot and shit everywhere, and just sobbed, literally uncontrollable sobbing for an hour.
Amazing.
Doing this breath work. I sat up, and she said, because I draw and stuff, she said, you're quite creative, so just allow that to, and I literally drew a picture straight away, and I nearly wrote a book. I wrote like 7, 8, 10 pages of just come out, all of this stuff just come out, and I've just but linking it back to what you're saying around like just there's years of suppressed emotion of not. And for someone that sits and talks like we do now, like we are now, and like to think that I'm really open, I'm vulnerable, and I've got these skills. There's 46 years of not doing that a lot, and trying to unpack it. And it just, you're right, like them daily practices of trying to sit and release emotion, and is such a. I mean, talk to me about. I'm really keen. Talk to me about some of the other practices you do, like like you said, the things that you've put in place now to manage your mental fitness, I guess, and mental health.
Yeah. So, cold water immersion. So again, it's just like sometimes like sending that email to going, can I just talk about like mental health? I think it's like my subconscious or the universe just telling me to do something because it just felt like I needed to do it. And I remember it was winter, and I went, my life is so out of control, I'm going to go and jump in the sea. It's December. And the universe, or my subconscious, said, I'm going to do. And what I've learned, and I did it daily for a long time, for the whole winter, there's so many powerful lessons learned from that. One, I was getting loads of panic attacks, and hyperventilating, and going into the water completely cured all of my panic attacks, because panic attacks is like your breath work. Panic attacks is all up here. I can't get air. You know when your kid sobs and cries, and you're like, just breathe, like get air in you. He's like, I can't get like that. That's a panic attack. You can't get air in. So you need to control your diaphragm. Same thing goes when you go into the water, like you go. The expression takes your breath away. You go like that. So I learnt how to control my diaphragm by, when you go into the water, don't go. Breathe out. Breathe out. Control your breathing. Calm down. And when you're in the water, full breaths from the belly to the chest, all throughout there. And it controls your diaphragms, and it instantly cleared my panic attacks because I can control my diaphragm. I could breathe through it. The second most important, powerful thing about that experience for me was my life was completely out of control in my head. I couldn't get work because no one would give me work. I couldn't stop all these things that were negatively impacting my life. The one thing I could do is go into that sea, even though I didn't want to. It was horrible. I hate the cold. That experience is painful, excruciatingly painful, but I'm going to do it. And that's one thing I can control in my life, is forcing myself to do that. And once I've done that really difficult thing, I've taken complete ownership of my life. Because when you're in there, your body's saying, I'm in fight or flight. Get me the head out of it. And you're like, no, mate, we're staying in here. And the most amazing thing happens after 2 minutes. It's excruciatingly painful. It feels like millions of needles. You know, it's not pleasant. After 2 minutes, you acclimatise, you relax, and you're cool. You breathe around, and it's controlling that fight or flight response, where my flight response was, I can't handle it in my life. Whereas when I was doing that practice, I was like, no, I'm going to tell me what to do, and we're going to do it, and we're going to relax, we're going to acclimatise to it. And then I ended up starting a swim club, winter swim club. Got up to 18 people in a WhatsApp group because everyone thought I was mental doing it. I went, no. It stops me being mental doing this. Told them all the benefits. They all came along. Like we swim around now, like up to there in December, just chatting away. 6 minutes in, and everyone's going, "What are you doing? You're mental." We're like, no. But everyone that there is dealing with something.
I mean, definitely for me, this is the second winter I've done it now, and it is, anyone listening, I'll shout about it from the roots, because it is life-changing. It is life-changing. Having that cold water therapy, swimming in that sea in the winter, going in as regular as I can. I don't go in every day, but at least probably 3 to 4 times a week, and just life-changing.
It's difficult.
It is, because I think again, the reason it really helps with mental health and is the fact that you go, I can do hard things when I'm doing something really hard and I'm really painful, and but I'm doing it, and I can get through it. So if I just do that, I've achieved that today. Even if the sea was really rough and I couldn't go in, and I always have a cold shower, so I have 2 minutes. Even the 2 minute in the cold shower, you go, that's all I've achieved today. Yeah. I've done it. I've done something tough, and I've come out, and it's made me feel better.
Rush.
Yeah.
There's the endorphins pumping
dopamine
for 3 hours afterwards. I'm just like,
the dopamine, like the natural dopamine, because there's the dopamine we get from social media, the dopamine we get, those hits, they're just fleeting. That's why we keep going back to them, because we need them so much. Whereas the natural dopamine, that natural release, can last all day, right? You just feel, you feel $1 million. I would definitely, I'll recommend. Yeah, I'm with you. On
and
that.
we all have this within us, and do you know what? It's free.
Yeah.
It's breath work, breathing, and getting cold.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah. That's the beauty of it. Yeah. You're right. Well, I want to talk. Just want to still talk a little bit about like the fulfilment side of it, and I do want to still touch on that failure piece, because you said now you're out of 10, which is amazing, and you're obviously listening to you talk and the work you're doing within that well-being space, I guess, is from a fulfilment point of view, right? Fulfilment is one of my 5 pillars. So you go like, where does like get into that space, I guess, personally and professionally? Is that where do you feel at that point of fulfilment now?
Yeah, so my whole identity was I'm an ad man. I'm a creative. I win awards, and that was my identity. When that got taken, I lost my identity. I was completely lost. I didn't know who I was as a person. And there's a quote by Gandhi, which is, to find yourself, you've got to lose yourself in the service of others. And so I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to talk to help me and help other people. And that's what led me to, creating Happy Sapien and doing Talk Club and helping members of my community by doing the swim club. A lot of people talk to me about the things they go through because they know that I'm of that cut from that cloth now. And I guess that is, I am more in touch with who I am, authentically, genuinely who I am, and it's been part of humanity, having human connection, having been part of communities, building communities. That's what gives me my life meaning and purpose and value. Not careers, not salaries, not money. This is the thing I'm really focused on, passionate about. I do still have my down days. Sometimes look at my bank account and go, oh, it's getting a bit close.
What gets you through those days when you are when now you having a down day? What gets you through that?
Yeah, I kind of triggered myself by looking at my bank account one time about 3 weeks ago. And I hadn't been doing, I hadn't, for 2-3 days, I hadn't done any of my daily practices. I was just stuck at home, building pitch presentations and trying to make connections within advertising. That is still my tribe. I do want to leave that landscape in a better place than I left it. I do want to safeguard people. So I'm trying to build contacts, and that's a very slow process. Took up a lot of my time. Hadn't done any wellbeing practices. Looked at my bank account. Went down.
Because that feeling, because the money side of it, I'm just keen to explore that because I've got a similar type of. But is it the when you look at that bank account, does it give you that feeling of failure?
Yeah,
again?
yeah, it does. It does.
And because it's hard, isn't it? Because whenever I talk about the stuff of reframing success and my 5 pillars and all of these things, it almost sounds like I go, but yeah, because money's obviously not important, but it really is.
Yeah,
we need it to survive. We need it to provide. I'm trying to get more comfortable at the place of going. I don't know if you resonate with this, but going like my driver's not money. Okay, so I'm not driven by money, but I do want to make enough so I don't worry about it. Because when I know when I'm coming from a place of abundance. So when I do look in the bank account and all the invoices are paid, all the bills are paid, everything's okay, and we're in a good position. There's never been loads of money in the account ever, but enough.
Yeah.
When there's enough and everything's paid, that feeling of abundance makes my work better, makes me go out into the world in a better place. When you come from a place of scarcity, words like desperation come in, and it's easier because then you go into a conversation, into your work more desperate than you were. And then that's when I believe the old archaic narratives for me of inadequacy and failure and worthlessness come into play for me. I guess I don't know if that resonates.
Absolutely. You get in a state of flow when things are comfortable, and amazing things happen when you get in a state of flow. But when you've got this sense of bit of fear, trepidation, and sort of anxiety, going, I need to make this work, or whatever, you tighten up and you're less genuine and less authentic. Those down days, I just have to what makes it even worse is when I go, I shouldn't feel like this because I know about
Shame
you know,
again, that
yeah,
shame.
I shouldn't feel because I everything I talk about and believe and try and inspire, and I'm failing because I'm feeling shit. And then I went, do you know what? It's okay to feel shit. I'm not gonna fight it. I'm gonna sit and wallow in it until I naturally process it. One day, could barely get out of bed. I was just that down. The second day, I got out of bed, and my wife was like, "Come and draw the curtains. You come and pick yourself up." And I was like, "Yeah, no, it's cool. I will." Third day, I was fine because I just relaxed and just went, "Don't fight it. Just be down. When you're happy, be happy. Be down when you're down. Just be down. Don't."
That's such good advice, because there's that element, isn't there, that again, the narrative out there is that you look at social media, so you've got to be happy all the time. Like, happiness is we've got to find happy. You should be happy. And what you got to be sad about?
Exactly.
Well, like that narrative, you go, actually, but when you go, you can't, even if you don't use happy and sad, but you know, I guess joy and sorrow, whatever it is,
Frustration,
whatever those elements are. But it's just getting to that point where it's, again, all it comes back to for me, understanding, processing emotion,
Absolutely.
being able to sit with an emotion.
Yeah.
We go, because of the narratives, sorrow, sadness, anger, all of those are negative emotions in our heads.
Yeah.
That's what we've been told. They're negative emotions, so I don't want to feel them. So when they come in, rather than processing them, I want to get rid of them.
Yeah.
I should be feeling like this. Yeah. And then the shame comes in, and it's just a cycle of going around. Whereas if we're given those tools and those skills to understand and process them, and brilliant what you just said, to be able to go, you know what, I'm just going to sit with it. I feel shit. Just going to sit and feel shit for a little while. Allow that, because one of my favourite quotes and favourite sayings is, "This too shall pass."
Yes.
And that for me, and that really lands for me when it is that feeling, when you're feeling shit, okay, this will pass.
Yeah.
But at the same token, when things are really good and when you are really happy, just be mindful that as great as things are now, this will pass, and I may be down there again, but that's okay. So but again, understanding, processing emotion, and recognising that, and being able to sit with it, I think such a powerful message.
And telling your household that I'm fine, just having a bit of a downtime. I'll get over it. This too shall pass. Yeah, I'll get over it. Just give me a bit of time, and don't get worried about me. You know, I'm in my own head, and I'll get out of it soon. Yeah.
But I'm keen to. You mentioned a lot about human connection, relationships is again one of my main relationships. How of like, since your breakdown and over the last few years, and the space that you're working in, how have two things really? One, how have your relationships developed or evolved with others, and how has that relationship with yourself evolved as well?
It's had a really big effect on my friends. I'll tell you a story. So one of my best mates, Mark, I was best man at his wedding. He was best man at my wedding. We've known each other for almost 30 years, 25 years. We go and play snooker at local snooker hall. It's all private upstairs, just one table. We go up there, put our JBL speaker on and stuff, and have a good session. And he said to me, "What did you do today?" I went, "I went to an agency that fired me and told them how I almost killed myself." And he went, "I don't find that funny." He thought I was joking. I said, "No." I went and I was a bit honest with these people. He's like, "What the fuck are you saying?" And I told him the story.
Yeah.
He cried. He got angry. He goes, "I'm so fucking angry at you for not telling me what you're going through. Give me a hug." Hugged, and he went, "Me and my wife are on the rocks. Have been for 2 years." And I went, "What are you talking about? I know you're not joking, but what are you talking about? How have I not known this?" I cried. I got angry at him, and I said, "I want to hug you." How can two best mates be going through big life-changing life moments without talking to each other. So again, me talking about my struggles, or breakdown, whatever, instantly gave him license to talk about his. And he'd been bottling it up for 2 years, but didn't know how to talk about it. And until I was just like completely honest about something really, really amazingly traumatic. And it's had a cascade. The ripple effect of that is that I then got confident to tell other friends and be more open down the pub about it. And they've all started sharing how they're feeling.
Wow.
And that gives me confidence, you know. I'm shy introvert, not particularly confident or good at public speaking or anything like that. But all of these experiences just help me get confidence, and that's what I really need in my life right now. And coming on here and doing this as well.
Mate. Honestly, I think so much. I think you're right. So much of it is that, again, stigma, shame, all of these things that surround these subjects and this topic that we both obviously passionate about. We both want to be able to get into the world, because I truly believe the second that we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and by doing that, we give others permission to do that. That's the key. That is the key. I've noticed it whether it be in our top table events what we do, and we have the storytelling cards and people that I've seen a room of 10 people, business owners, that will go to a networking event and talk about it. So as soon as I start getting the conversation cards out, and there's some difficult questions in there, the second someone opens up and shares something, just gives others the permission. And the conversation, the power of the stuff that comes out of them. I'm assuming, like similar at Talk Club, you'll get that environment where the second someone shares something, it enables someone else to be able, that gives them the permission and the bravery to be able to do that. Do you think there's something around? I made a joke about this the other day in relation to that. What would it look like? Would it look like if there was a Marvel superhero? It was like Vulnerability Man or someone like that. What does that look like? Like if someone, because vulnerability is real strength and real power, and what does that? How does that manifest in people's lives? And when they go, you know what, this is that. Is that something that we just, again, it's just flipping the narratives around what that means?
But this is the hero's. This is the hero's journey. And Joseph Campbell.
Yeah, Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's such an integral part to the hero's journey, that vulnerability. It can't be the whole story, but it's definitely part of it. And that's the rewarding part, which is, you know, all of the blockbusters like Matrix,
Superman.
all of them. Not necessarily Superman, but it's normal guy.
Well, okay, yeah.
Normal guy, Luke Skywalker. Normal guy. Something happens that takes him out of his normal world, and he faces adversity. Doesn't know how to overcome that adversity, so he goes down into a pit. And that's the story arc going along. Faces something really challenging, goes down into pit, and he's in hell and has to fight a demon. But he hasn't got the power to. He doesn't know how to. So then he has to learn a special, you know, the Matrix. He has to learn the kung fu. Luke Skywalker has to learn the lightsaber. Harry Potter has to learn the magic to overcome. They then, that adversity, that vulnerability, celebrate that by then learning that skill to overcome your demon, and that's how you come out of the pit at a more elevated position than when you were at the start. And that's when you go back in, the heroes go back into the ordinary world to tell their story. That is the story arc. So vulnerability is there, but it's buried within the whole story arc.
I love that.
And that's what helped me. One of the things I was listening to was psychology, and I went, shit, okay, well, if it's all a journey, where am I on my journey? I was a normal guy, dad died, wife died, lost my job, I went into a pit. Didn't know how to overcome that, and I was stuck there for 5 years, snorting, drinking, and everything, just to pretend I wasn't there. And I went, my thing I need. It was another quote he said, which just stuck with me, which is, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek." And it's Joseph Campbell, right? And so it stuck with me. I went, I love that, but I don't know why. And it stuck me for 2-3 days. And I went, what's the treasure? What's the treasure? Is it a sword, a gem, treasure chest? What is the treasure? I went, right. It's overcoming the fear to enter the cave is the treasure, right? So then I went, well, what's the cave? Where is the cave? Is it like some like pit, or do you have to climb a mountain and find like a cave? It annoyed me so long. I couldn't sleep at night, and it suddenly hit me. I went, you are the cave. So the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So you are the cave. We're all too scared to go the journey inwards. But when you have the courage to go inwards and into that cave, that is the treasure. That is the reward. And so then I went, right, so I've understood that thing. Where am I in this hero's journey? I'm down in the pit. I need to look within myself and bring it out and speak about it. And that is my moment, the skill I need to learn. To look, be honest with myself first, of how I'm feeling, and then go and be honest with other people about how I'm feeling. And that is how I overcame my demons, and I'm now elevated to a higher place.
That asking yourself those big questions that we to look inward, right? To look inward. When do you think, at what age can we start to do that? Because the reason I ask is because me and you are a similar age. We're both 46, right? I'm a few months older than you, but anyway, so we're both 46, right? We're getting to points in our life, and so many people around our age group will say midlife crisis, awakening, however we frame it, and then now we start to ask ourselves these questions. Now, these inward questions. Is it that, again, back to the journey or whatever, is it that we have to go through that to start asking those questions? Or what does it look like if younger, given skills and toolkits to be able to start asking some of those questions, who we are, what our values are, those type of big questions, have we got the ability and can we do that at an earlier age, and would that have an impact, do you think?
I love that. I love these questions. It's so important. I was at a networking event for Becca from Happy Startup, and there's a load of us, the Happy Startup crew there, and I got a chat to Roxana, and she said, I was talking about my boy and emotional intelligence and stuff like that. She goes, can I just recommend a book by Steve Peters, I think it is, a psychologist who mentors Ronnie O'Sullivan, who's got demons within him, and he wrote a book called The Chimp Paradox.
Yeah, I've heard of it, yeah.
So he's written a kid's book called The Hidden Chimp, right? And she did it with her son, and it's amazing because it teaches you, you're a lovely boy, I love you so much, but when you do naughty things, it's annoying. And then there's that fear going, oh, I am a naughty boy. And it's like, you're not, you're a lovely boy. But there's a chimp in your brain that's hyper emotional, that when you're dysregulated and you're frustrated or whatever, you're not quite yourself, it comes out in a really bad way. This storybook, I'm picking up on Thursday with my boy, but the premise is you have to name your monkey. So your son, your kid has to name their monkey. Like, I've got monkey. You've got a human brain, robot brain, monkey brain. You normally operate on your human brain. Yeah. Your robot brain is like driving a car or playing a rope swing or whatever. You do it automatically. Your monkey brain is this thing that comes in and goes like that. And it's like you need to put that monkey back in its cage and identify it. So it's not like saying, I'm I'm really annoyed at you for doing that. You go, oh, Timmy, your monkey, has come out and he's doing something that I'm not happy with. Can you put Timmy back in a cage? And then, so it's not about pointing the finger at the kid. It's like going, identify some emotion or some chaos monster in there. And I think that's how I'm picking up on Thursday. I've ordered it, and I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, that's amazing. It is again, I think the lovely thing about having these conversations is that you go, there's a shift. Whatever way we look at it, there's a shift. Right, the fact that me and you are having it as parents, we're having these conversations and going, this is what we want for our kids. Do you know what I mean? We're trying to arm them with as many tools. And look, I'm quite confident that in 30 years' time, my kids will be sitting having conversations about certain things I've done and certain things that maybe, that have impacted them in a certain way, negatively as well as positively, hopefully. But, because we're not going to I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect father. I'm going to get things wrong. I'm going to, because of my own learned behaviour, right? So but all we can do is our best. And that's all we can do on a daily basis is our best with the tools we've got and the skills. So I'm trying to develop my skills. I'm trying to have conversations and learn from the people. 130 episodes of trying to learn about life and about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a father, what it means to be a human being and a businessman, all of them things. We try and feel ourselves and we just do the best we can. And then I'll give them hopefully more tools than I had. And then when they have kids, they're going to, hopefully they're developing, they give them more tools than we are. And I think that's, if I get to the end of my life and you put your head on it, you've just done the best I can with what I've got on a day, then that's okay.
And you can't ask for anything more than that, just doing your best.
Exactly.
And having these conversations and being on that journey to actually want that, for your kids,
Yeah, and I just think, if we can, like you said, I guess getting back to that question of trying to go, is it that if we do give them more of these skills and talk, like I never knew about the chimp paradox or that type of thing when I was younger, so I understand I've got this narrative in my head. So if we're giving them those skills and them talk, can they start to ask those? Like I said, can they start to ask them questions to themselves a little bit earlier on, so that they can maybe they don't get to a midlife crisis, awakening, whatever that period looks like, because they've gone, I've processed this. I've asked. I know what my values are at a young age. I know who I am at a young age. I'm on a journey, and we're still all on a journey. Like, even at 46, we're still on the journey, right?
My God,
it's going to be ongoing, isn't it? Thinking, are we ever going to get to? Me and you going to sit and have when you come back for part 2 in 10 years' time, and me and you are sitting here having a we'll still be on that fucking journey, won't we? But it'll just be maybe further along that journey, and as long as we're open-minded enough to go that life, that's life, isn't it?
It's saying it takes a village to raise a child, right? Because I need conversations with you to remind me, or give me tools or techniques. So by speaking to all these people, your kids are going to be brought up, as a well-rounded individuals, because it's not just you doing that. You're relying on your community of people, your village of people.
I think you're right. And I think, and I guess what's happened over the years, back to right at the start, you started talking about tribes and stuff like that. That's why, almost we've lost that. We've lost that sense of community and human connection, and we're losing it more even with AI coming in. Or is it that actually we're starting to recognise that? Hopefully we're starting to recognise that, and even with AI coming in, we go, what a brilliant tool that is, and what that's going to do is enable me to do a load of admin-y process stuff that I don't need to do, that's going to reduce my time working, so that it gives me more time to do this, more time to have human connection, more time to raise a child within a village, within a community, and we ultimately, I guess if COVID didn't show us one thing, it showed us that we crave human connection. We need that. We do need that human connection. Even as you've alluded to a few times, as an introvert, you need that human connection, right? Establish relationships that keep us going and will help us develop as human beings. And I think that's my hope. My hope for the next 5-10 years is that with the advancement of AI, that this human connection becomes more prevalent. And that will impact.
That's why football's so big.
Yeah.
I'm red, you're blue. We've got shirts, and I've got like 90,000 people that I'm part of. You know,
belonging, right?
yeah. And you know, when I got exiled from my tribe, advertising industry, I was lost. So I had to go to AA. That became my tribe. I went on Men in Their Emotions online. That was my tribe. Talk Club was my tribe. Even started going to church because I needed to feel that need to belong. I was just constantly looking for these happy startup crew. What a wonderful tribe that is. We all need to feel like we belong. They are out there. We just got to look for them.
Mate, what just an amazing conversation. I know it's so much as well. I could still, when we are coming towards the end. I guess a couple of things I just wanted to touch on really before we did that. With your dad, did you sort of that shift of him being scary to becoming your hero? Did you ever talk to him about that?
I wish he was 64 when he passed. A month before he's going to get his bus pass, retirement age. Knowing after my breakdown, everything I used to always tell him I love him, and he was uncomfortable with saying I love you. Had a double heart bypass a few years back, and I thought I was going to lose him. So then I was like, no, I'm going to tell you every single time I love you and hug you, because and that softened him up a bit. But his main role is to be a provider and to put things in place that we're going to be comfortable in later life, and instill values and understand what's right and wrong, and have a real sort of religious upbringing. That was good. I didn't really chat to him on this level. I'm really gutted I didn't manage to do that. I've tried having conversations with my mum about this, but there's some things she said that some things mums don't want to know about, my attempted suicide. It's a subject she just couldn't handle going deep into it. She's always said to me that there's a natural order in life, and that's for your parents to die first, and I couldn't bury you, and I'm putting something in front of her which I know she can't handle, which I understand. I do understand, and I know some of my friends can go deeper with their parents, but not a lot of people can. I think they're quite old school in that sense.
But again, it's a generational thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think again, I just don't. I'm not similar with as amazing as my mum and dad. Do I have really emotional? Probably not. I just don't, and I think no, and I don't know whether that's on me, on them, or I just it's just a different generation. I think there's again from their learned behaviour.
Yeah.
He said, and it's just different. I'm hoping that I can do different with mine. That I can create an environment where they can.
Oh, I know they will. Yeah. I mean, it's stiff upper lip. Don't talk about the war, post-war era. But I come back with shell shock, PTSD. Don't talk about that. That goes down from my grandparents' generation to my parents. But our generation are way, especially living in Brighton. But I know you are going to be able to have those conversations and those really healthy relationships with your kids. I know it.
I hope so. I just want to finish up the last couple. If I ask, with all the stuff we're talking, with the work you do with men and within Talk Club and stuff like that, I think a lot of it is to do with the narrative of not a lot of young boys and young men coming through, maybe not knowing what it means to be a man these days. If I ask you, what does it mean to be a man?
Oh, I haven't prepped for that one. To be a man, for me, to be fully honest to myself and other people is a lovely word in counselling called congruence, and I think it's my favourite word in counselling setting, which is what you see on the outside is the same as what I feel on the inside. So if I'm incongruent, I was incongruent for 5 years, in turmoil in here, but pretending to be happy. I was incongruent. But when you're congruent, I'll allow you to see what's truly in here. I've got the confidence to be honest with myself and be honest with you what's going on here, and that's the therapeutic relationship. It's just genuine authenticity, and you see what you get. I'm not hiding anything. I want to be honest with that, talk about everything. And for me, that's what being a man is about. It's not like going out to the pub, provide football, like drinking beers. Like that's nonsense.
That is beautiful. I love that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that one with me. Thank you. What legacy do you want to leave behind? Is legacy important to you?
Never really thought about it. I'm just trying to live in the moment and do the best I can every day. And if I know it is making a difference for my friends, my family, Talk Club, and the advertising industry. The feedback I get from people, but then I go, that makes me feel good. You know, that really does make me feel happy. The work I'm doing now, and it's for me and other people. It's selfishly but unselfish at the same time. And I know some of my friends, they're in a more congruent place, and their kids can see that. And so if it has a ripple effect, it's great. Yeah.
Mate, we have a closing tradition on this podcast.
Right.
So at top table events, we do our conversation cards. So I've got to choose a card.
Choose a card, any card. I'll do the middle one. There you go.
What is the most important lesson a relationship has taught you?
The relationship is taught.
Relationship has taught you. What is the most important lesson a relationship has taught you?
The fact I need it. You know, I need relationships in my life, and I need to work hard to keep those relationships healthy. Constant work. Just looking how to be a good husband, good father, a good friend, good brother, good son. All those relationships I have, I need to work hard to make those closest to me happy. You know, and when I do that, I'm happy. When people around me are happy, I'm happy. And if I can always make people happy. So my well-being is entirely reliant on your well-being.
Within relationships, I always like being one of the 5 pillars. I always look at it and go, there's the most important relationship for me, and I'm only learning this, and this has taken 46 years to get to this, but actually the most important relationship, my understanding, is the one we have with ourselves, right? For me to be the best husband I can be, the best father I can be, I've got to, that famous thing, put your own oxygen mask on first, but it's so relevant, because if I am looking after myself and choosing me, and being the best version of me, I can then be the best version of me to all of those people within my life. That helps then to make that relationship stronger. struggle with that. I struggle with that still, to put myself first, or believe that I'm worthy enough to. One of the big things that come out of that, my journey, the first thing I wrote down is, why am I not enough? That was the biggest thing I wrote down, and I wonder, like, just listening to you talk about relationship in that sense, I guess that's just trying to navigate that, and I guess a message is trying to look at how important that relationship is with ourselves.
But when I had those 2 down days, I kept on saying to myself, I am enough, I am loved, and there's no one else on the planet who can give what I can give, and that's worth and value there, and be proud of myself, and embrace all the positives within me, and keep telling yourself, I am enough. I might not be earning as much as I should be, but I am enough, because I want to improve the lives of those around me. And it surprises me to hear you say that, because I think you're such a force for good, Sam. I really do. I've been watching from the sidelines for a long time, and I'm just in awe. You're an inspiration. It's made me want to reach out to you, connect with you, be part of your journey, what you're doing. I think it's incredible. You're changing lives. You're an absolute inspiration, mate.
As are you, my friend. As are you. And still find it difficult to take compliments, but I will take that one as a gift. So that's very kind of you.
Yeah,
thank you. But mate, honestly, thank you for coming on. And as you did when you shared with me the first time we met. Well, you first sent me that video, then at Soho House, and then today. You've brought tears to my eyes again, and but actually every time you share your story, you're giving other people permission to share theirs, and you're saving people's lives. So, mate, I'm so grateful for your time and for what you've done today. So, thank you for coming on.
Oh, mate, thank you. Honestly, from my heart, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Amazing, and that, so as they say, is a wrap.